Well, hello. Welcome to another wonderful show of Power Surge. I'm really looking forward to today. And like you, I get to meet our guest basically for the first time. And I'm really excited because a good friend of mine said, You've got to have this man on your show. And he has accomplished all kinds of things. And we'll go over that when he gets on. But I just want you to know I really appreciate you joining in. And I'm excited for our journey today. That being said, let's bring on Brian L. Kent, PhD, also known as BK. Hey, I'm going to call you Brian because that's easier for me to speak out.
You got it, Karen. How are you doing today?
Brian, if I were any better, I would be you, so I would be perfect. So, I'm pretty dang up there.
That's an amazing thing. Awesome.
Well, Ken Rochon, we had him on recently, and Ken is a dear friend of mine, and he said, You have got to have this man on. He is like the motivational speaker of motivation. He works with companies, small, medium, large, make sure all their stuff gets done. He does executive coaching. He's written a couple of great books, and he's just the man of the how, the no, and the move. And I am honored to have you on the show. So thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm looking forward to a great hour with you, and hopefully your audience will enjoy the two of us having a conversation. But
Oh,
it should be good.
I know they will. I have no doubt. Just a little bit. I already got to talk to you. Well, that being said, I want to hear your journey, and then there's a couple of questions I definitely have along the way. But tell me just basically, how did things start? Was it always like a piece of cake, or did you have some struggles along the way? Or tell me just a little bit.
Well, I don't like to call them struggles. I like to call them opportunities for success, right? So,
Uh,
so we don't fail. Fail is an acronym that I use. This is your first attempt in learning.
okay, I got to write that down. Now, all of you, when I look down, I'm writing. I'm not ignoring.
So, anyway, I grew up on a small farm in North Florida. On a small farm, you don't worry too much about your book education. You better learn about your common sense. So therefore, when you actually get out into the world with a lot of educated people, you might be a little ahead of them because common sense sometimes can outweigh book knowledge, right? So because common sense isn't all too common. But anyway, so I left the farm at 17, sold my horses, a few cows, and joined the Army and stayed in the Army for 20 years. I got an opportunity.
Wow. Well,
People say,
thank you
"What?"
for serving. I want to stop you and say thank you for serving. You deserve a great honor and respect for helping us with our peace and our safety and security. So
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you. Yeah. And so I left about the commercial kind of people say, why did you join the Army? I said, well, I took the government at its slogan, join the Army and be all you could be. So I did. And 20 years later, I decided to shift to a different career and I
Mhm.
retired from the U.S. Army. And at that time, I'd seen the world. I'd accomplished and done a lot more than a lot of people ever get an opportunity to even try. So I'd like the old TV commercial. One guy asked the other guy, "Have you ever even left the county?" Well, I left the county, the state, and the country. So, but anyway, it was a blessing from above. I mean, obviously, I've been in areas where some people don't want to go, but most of the time, I was blessed and with opportunities for leadership, opportunities to shine, opportunities to make a difference. So when I retired, I felt like I could do more outside of the Army than I could in the Army just because of some of the government constraints. And I say that's the best thing that ever happened was retiring. It's the best thing and the worst thing for retiring from the Army. It's the best thing because nobody can tell me what I can't do. And it's the worst thing because nobody can tell me what I can't do. So you get to move out on your own decision.
You get used to being told what to do, and it makes it real easy after a while. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. But for me, it was a great opportunity. I jumped out. I opened up a consulting company when I retired because I had been a government procurement officer. So I had to wait for a year before I could really join a company for anybody that had worked with me. And
Hmm.
in that year, I built my company to where I decided that's what I wanted to do. So I did ran that company. Pretty soon, I had about 3 or 4 companies that I was actually overseeing. Then I got into the acquisition and merger game some, so I sold some of them and bought some others, and then eventually sold my primary work company or my operating company and did some transitional work. Ended up in a Fortune 500 company where I ran about operations across 17 different time zones.
Wow.
I learned how to turn on the do not disturb setting on my watch and my phone so people could, if it was between 11 and 5, wherever I was at, I could sleep. Nobody could bother me. But,
Yeah.
but again, it was another blessing I received because I learned multiculture. I learned even more now as a business guy because I always dealt with international business or international military officers, but it's a big difference dealing with international businesses, right?
Right.
But it still was another cultural intelligence moment, I guess you'd say, because you have to pay attention to what you say. You have to pay attention to what the cultures are. You have to pay attention to the money and all those things too. So it was a great opportunity. And then a couple of years ago, I left and actually went back into my consulting business where I am now and advised for a couple of companies, a fractional CFO for two, fractional CEO for two, and uh, and then do consulting and speaking. And so that's afforded me an opportunity to put some of the knowledge between my 2 years on paper. So therefore, I've published a couple of books. I get an opportunity to speak now,
Yeah.
and I don't say even though I have a lot of education, a lot of my speaking and coaching is really through stories. It's through
Right.
analogies to help people learn. I do have handouts for people to take notes, but the biggest thing is for them to hear the story and me to walk them through how to apply what we're trying to discuss so they can see it in their life. And if you can
Yeah.
get there, then it's a big win. And they say if you coach and teach and mentor for years, only change one life, you still were successful.
My ex used to tell me I had the goddess syndrome because that was my goal. If I can get one aha, I've changed the world for the better. And he's like, you just want to be all that important. It's like, I don't care if it's one or 10,000. Of course, 10,000 would be better, but or 100,000 or however many. But if I can change one life for the better, the whole world has changed because of the ripple effect. So,
Absolutely. Well, I'm on the board for a group called Chemist Nation right now, and I got behind the founder of that group about 18 months ago because his mission statement is he wants to personally develop 100 millionaires and wants those 100 millionaires to commit to him that once they make it, they will help 100 themselves.
oh, I love that.
And with that it's even better than the Gillette razor because we don't charge for the education. We don't charge for the networking. Only when you're trying to get help with your business do you get charged. But you put in the room with people where you can have discussions, right? Now we are charging for like an upcoming summit, and I'll be speaking there in about 3 weeks. But the key thing is to get people at breakfast, to get people at dinner, to get people just in the room talking about how to help each other. And then people will rise to the occasion. And the ones that don't want to rise to the occasion, it doesn't matter if they come into the lunch or not, because you're going to have those that are just naysayers anyway. So
Oh, yeah.
you just have to keep moving on.
Well, and I always said that going to events, it was great to learn the information. It was great to meet a few of the people, but an event is a place to see and be seen, and it's to see who it is that you can help and who can help you. And then to network with them because people want to help you and you obviously want to help people. And
Absolutely.
so that's what you look for. And, sometimes people overlook the importance of that networking.
It's funny you should say that. So we've changed. You saw in one of the notes I sent you that my saying is there's nothing that you can't do as a play on my last name.
I love that.
And we actually, when we coach that or use that, first thing you got to do is make sure everybody has the knowledge. We all need to have a common base, right? Knowledge.
Yeah.
And then as a manager employee, you got to empower your people to where they can make decisions, they can move out, they can understand what's happening. And then you jump into that. Have you empowered them to build the network for success around them and around your company?
Yeah.
And then you got to turn them loose once you know they have the knowledge and you've empowered them and they built their network, turn them loose with some tenacity. what tenacity are you going to move forward to make this happen? So therefore, if you use can't, then there's nothing you can't do.
I love that. So I love how you use acronyms. I really, really do. It,
It's the military for you. I can do a whole
it
sentence with nothing but acronyms.
yeah, I guess that's true. Now that I think about it, I guess that's true. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, no, I think I've met some of the greatest people that I've had the opportunity to meet and know just through a networking event or going to an event and being willing to go to that breakfast or that lunch or that dinner or that after hours activity because that's where the people who really want to make a difference are.
Absolutely. I'm doing a documentary now, a 4-part series on my life and some of the stuff I do. And one of the things a friend of mine, Dr. Stringham, probably early 2000s, he documented where social drinkers make more money every year than non-drinkers.
I can see why.
I did say social drinkers, not power drinkers, but
Yeah, no, I got that.
but the key, what he found was it's in the relaxed setting of a coffee or a drink or a whatever the beverage is. It doesn't matter if it's a beverage or not, right? It's the event of where you've gotten out of the workforce, where we're not talking about PowerPoint and tasks and purposes. We're talking about opportunities. We're talking about growing together and helping each other and rise into the next level. And through that, it is amazing to where you can just pull the thread to see how things happen. So a friend of mine, the book that's coming out in 3 weeks, I was at his mastermind last year, or no, actually earlier this year, and he handed out rocks. You can't really see that, but anyway, he handed out rocks.
Oh yeah, yeah,
My rock says believe, right?
yeah,
So with the rock, it says believe. So I said, you know what would be pretty nice? If I started writing a quote of the day using the word believe.
yeah.
Then the first month was over. So let's pick another motivational word, right? Like leadership or authority or empowerment. And the next thing you knew, here in 3 weeks, I'm releasing a book with 365 quotes for the day based on 12 words, 12 motivational words. And that started from a mastermind where the guy with the mastermind gave everybody a word rock for them
Oh
to
wow.
use as for a thought. Every time they was having to just look at your rock and just whatever the word is, that was a word to be instrumental for you for the day. But anyway, it's amazing things like that just happen through networking or through ideas or dreams. And it's really about you putting the tenacity behind it to make it more than just a rock. Because
Oh
now,
yeah.
October the 22nd, I'll give away 150 of those books at a where I'm speaking. And now 150 people will have the book from that rock.
Isn't that? It's the ripple effect. That exactly the ripple effect. And you know what? We never have enough good quotes. And I
Well,
really
I've got some
appreciate that
doozies,
you
but we
put
won't
that
use them all today.
together. But no, I appreciate that you put that together because I mean, I'm always going, I need a good quote on this. And sometimes I can come up with them on my own, sometimes I cannot.
That's right.
And, and sometimes you see somebody else's quote and it changes the world. It's one of
And I
those
believe that.
aha moments.
I believe that. So it is about the relationships and about paying attention and just listening to people. I call that 221, right? You got 2 ears, 2 eyes, one mouth. So I should be 4 times as much sensory data coming in to be processed in your brain than going out.
Yeah.
So if you use, so it's definitely a methodology to receive and then give.
Yeah. I like that. Well, if you were to say, and I know there's dozens and dozens of them, but when you think of the first person that really just motivated you to get off your butt and get going, not that you were ever on your butt because you lived on a farm, you don't get a rest there, but the first person that really just made you say, "Ooh, I'm going to really get going," who would that be, and what did they do?
Oh wow! So it's in the front of the R factor. I actually have 5 people that I give because different phases of your life, you have people that motivate you differently, right? So
Yeah.
Probably the first guy, and I say it
I'm
in
going
my
to
book.
stop you for just a minute because I want everyone to know he's got a phenomenal book out there called The R Factor that you all need to go out and get and read. It's The R Factor by BK or Brian L. Kent, PhD.
That's right.
But yeah, so I was going to ask you, tell me more about the R Factor, but now go on. The first guy in the book.
Yeah. So first guy in the book, well, it's called the R Factor: Scaling Your Business Through Relationship Management.
Right.
So yeah, so the first guy I bring up in the book is a guy by the name of John Stone, and I was a young, impressionable teenager, and he was one of the largest farmers in the county, and was an amputee. I've seen him crawl up on the tractor. I've seen him have to make all kind of adjustments to make things work.
Yeah.
And if you can do what he did, then nobody has an excuse, like you said, to sit on the couch,
Right.
right? So, so he at a young age um, inspired me to not let things get in the way. I mean, I saw things where we would run into problems with the tractor or something on the farm, and he figured out a way to make it work or a way to work around it. So he was the first, and then you go through your career and you have others, and then of course my other was right after Somalia, where we had the battle in Somalia in 1993. My boss, General Garrison, was the second one, and his big thing was, let's cut regulation, let's cut policy, this was before everybody was talking Lean Six Sigma and everything else. He goes, in all cases, the number one policy should be use your best judgment. And with that, that didn't mean he was erasing the rules and regulations, but he held you accountable to the decisions you made based on you being able to defend your best judgment. So as a young leader, that was very inspirational to me because we were traveling all over the world. And if you got yourself in trouble, things happen.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying stupid things. I mean, stupid things happen, but they're, if you get yourself sideways in a political issue or a geopolitical issue or something, how did you get there? If you're
Yeah.
in combat and you lose one of your soldiers, how did you get there? If you're in business and one of your employees have made a bad decision, how did they get there? Right? And everybody has to be thick-skinned to live like that. But if everybody lives like that, it makes the world a better place because we can lay out our goals and dreams, and then we can lay out the way we're going to get there, and then we can hold ourselves accountable and use your best judgment because you can't wait for 100% of the information to make a decision. So you have to have a methodology to think through where you're going to get to the risk tolerance that you want as an individual or as a business to get there. And I tell leaders all the time, the reason you're stagnant or plateaued is because you can't make a daggum decision. Because lack of a decision is a decision, only you
Yeah.
delegated it to somebody else to make for you.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's a lot of times the problem I see with my coaching. Go ahead.
I like how you brought up, if one of your team employees, staff, if they make a mistake, how did they get to that? That is so much better than that they're there. It's, I mean, yeah, they're there, but instead of focusing that they're there and browbeating them and, making them panic that they're going to make a mistake again, find out how they got there so you can fix it and help them learn how to fix those things. And I hate to say use more common sense, but in most cases, that's what it is what they thought was common sense wasn't at that moment.
I,
Um,
I tell you a good analogy, Karen,
yeah,
that I use with the owners or managers. I say when it's time for when the deadline is passed and the job is done, if you've led those individuals transparently enough with setting the goals and holding people accountable, when that leader or that individual comes to your office, he knows whether he's coming down there to talk to you about a bonus or he should know if he should be bringing his box with him.
yeah,
If we
I like
communicate
that.
like that with our employees, then they know if they're going to be hired or fired or they should be looking for another job.
Yeah,
And and I say that because Communication, accountability, and openness make the world go around, just like the networking does. The bigger your network, the more opportunity, the larger you make things accountable. And then that way also too, you can kill stupid ideas early, or
Yeah.
you can get things that are roadblocks that are inhibiting your employees or your people to where they can move out, and you can move out with more tenacity and more energy and more
Yeah.
success.
One of the things I like to when I was doing the C-suite positions, and then again when I was teaching others and coaching them, is stop sandwiching. If and I call my employees in and I tell these guys to do that. When you first take over a division, a department, a company, or whenever, you say, hey, if you're doing a good job, is it all right if I tell you you're doing a good job? And everybody's like, yeah, great. On the same token, if I find you get off track a little bit, is it all right if I tell you you're off track before it becomes a problem? Yeah. And then when they do a good job, I say, hey, good job, high five. And I don't follow it up with, but you could do this better. It's good
Right.
job, high five. And then when they get off track, instead of being, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? It's, hey, you got off track a little bit. What can I do to help you get back on track?
That's right.
And
You
now
have
it
to
never,
have those discussions.
yeah, and it never turns into a big issue because now they know, oh, if I'm off track, I can go to her and she'll help me get back on track and not freak out because
Right.
I made a mistake. And it 1,000% makes a difference with your employees. Again, as you said, it's that transparency, that open communications, but it's being honest, not just with if did they fail or but being honest, did you succeed?
Right.
And pointing that out. So I agree with you on that 100%. Thank you for letting me agree.
Well, I found consensus is there, but then when it's time for the rubber to meet the roads, where you have the problem there, because then that's where the people don't exercise, so therefore that friction starts and gets warmer, right? Because
Yeah,
you don't keep it up.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Well, I interrupted you. I tell me about the next guy in your book.
General Garrison was my next one, and then of course probably I had five, but then probably the only other one worth mentioning right now, but on where we're at, is a guy by the name of Ralph Osterhout. He has about 500 patents, but the
Wow.
the biggest thing for me is with him was nothing got in his way. Anytime somebody gave him a problem, the reason he's got so many patents, people would give him problems, and he'd sit down and figure out solutions, right? So one of the things you do is when people are bringing you problems, you can say, okay, you're dealing with this. What are some courses of action or solutions that you could bring for us to discuss? Because a lot of times people are ready to bring their wheelbarrow load of stuff and dump it at your feet because they want to make it your problem. And
Right.
so what I've found is don't bring me a problem without at least two, maybe three solutions for us to discuss. Because the employee that has the problem or has identified a problem, they know how it's affecting other things. They know where there's some downstream problems. Now, the challenge you got in another policy that Garrison had was if it affects just your office, you can approve it. If it affects one person outside your office and in the organization somewhere, it has to be staffed. Because just because you have a good idea doesn't mean it may lighten your workload, but it might increase somebody else's. So we have to
Right.
to look at it. So, but I think the key piece to that again is the communication, and then that makes everybody too a problem solver or solution oriented person. You're going to have a complainer, but even a complainer can come up with a good idea every now and then.
Oh, yeah, sadly they do. We'd like to say never ever complain, but they come up with good ideas. I don't mind
Well,
if you complain, like you said. I don't mind if you complain if you have at least one solution that we can look at.
that's right.
And that solution shouldn't be just blow the whole thing up. Now that
Right.
may end up being the solution, but come with an idea of what we can do. And sometimes you don't have those ideas, but if you practice coming up with them, more likely than not, you'll have an idea of how to solve it.
That's right. Well, I mean, when you go into a working session, you have things you want to accomplish, things you want to stop, And then what do you? I think the common word is just put it in the parking lot. Well, put it in the parking lot means forget it. That means we need to have more discussion about it,
Yeah.
and then
Well,
that gives people time to think about it to bring something back.
and it goes back to no stupid idea, and people are like, oh yeah, there are some stupid ideas. Well, yeah, maybe at the moment, but if you really look at my stupid idea might actually spark somebody else's brilliant idea that ends up being the solution.
That's
And
right.
so in that case, there are no stupid ideas, because anything I say or toss out, no matter how relevant it appears or doesn't appear, might be the one thing that made somebody think of something completely different. But there was something that was said that they went, oh, yeah,
Well, that's why you have these word diagrams, right? Where you have it's like word salad. There's 50 words on the wall and different colors, shapes, and all of a sudden, because it's meant to make people think,
yeah,
um, to use those different ideas and really think about, oh, yeah, like you said, there could be one or two words in that word salad that really change the dynamic of the whole conversation.
yeah.
So,
What would you think was the or not that you think, what would you say was one of the first and best lessons that you learned on communication and how to communicate? Because the communications is a problem people think they don't have, but pretty much all of us do at some point or another.
oh,
Yeah, I told you I ask hard questions.
well, this one, in my documentary is the guy what he captures really it just sets the tone, right? So one of the things, and I've actually shown this to 3 or 4 employees, believe it or not, as a counseling since I've made that phase of the documentary. We were out training one time, and I said, "Hey, Sergeant so and so, you take Smith with you and go down here, and I need you to do X." In about 45 minutes, I get a phone call. They're both dead. So now you're saying, okay, wow, what did I do? Did I not do something right? Did they do something wrong? Did I not pay attention? Did I not whatever, right? And then my boss, he says, okay, Brian, he says, now we got to think about this because you got to write the draft letter so we can send it to his mom.
Yeah,
Well, business every day is not like that, but business every day is like that. It's the attention to detail that if we don't have open communication, we stay sidelows. Your competitors are trying to kill you. They want you out of the way because they want your market share.
right.
You know, your employees are trusting you as the leader that you've thought about what you've asked them to do. You know, and that was how we got unions 70 years ago because employers weren't thinking about the precious people. They were just thinking about the process, right?
Yeah,
So as I talk to people about the R factor, we talk about the product and the process, but we don't always talk about the people or the relationships the people have.
yeah,
And so that's why I say that attention to detail is powerful because that if everybody is focused, that if my portion of the mission, whether it's making a product, providing a service, or whatever I'm doing for the company, is a critical part to the system and they know how they fit in the system. Every time you talk about a CEO, make sure your people understand how they fit in the program. If you're doing that, it makes the whole team stronger. And therefore, when bad things happen or when things go wrong, we can have those discussions. We can have that. Did I do it or was it them or was it, everybody wants to say, like a plane crash, is it pilot error? Or is it the wing blew off? Or is it, okay, somebody's got to have that discussion. You know, the Ford dealerships or the Chevrolet dealership, they have those discussions. Unfortunately, the bean counters say, okay, it's okay for so many people to die before we fix those brakes or that airbag, right?
yeah,
And it, everything in life is a give and so you have to figure out where your comfort level is and the decisions you're making and where the risk is you want to take.
Yeah.
And so as I talk to people, I don't want it to be the extreme. I want us to bring it back here where we can have the conversation. And you can't make it so much the other direction because then you have even more issues.
Right.
Because when
Right.
nobody's in charge, nothing's getting done, and there's more risk to the company and more risk to the people.
Yeah. Yeah. I I agree 1,000%. And so I'm gonna put in a commercial for both of us real fast.
Okay.
Wednesday, or not Wednesday, next Tuesday. What is the day? I have to look up the day of the week it is,
Would
or
be
if
the
it's
ninth.
not
I think it's the
Tuesday,
ninth. I think
the 9th. Next Tuesday, the 10th. Am
10th.
I in the
Okay.
right month?
Uh,
Next
should be the
Tuesday.
should be the
Next.
ninth because
Yeah,
Wednesday this
I'm in
week
the
is the
wrong month. Yep,
yeah.
I'm in September, not October, so that helps. Next Tuesday, the 10th. See, it's a good thing I have you here to keep me honest. Brian, thank you for keeping me honest. Next Tuesday, the 10th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, I have a free webinar that we're going to be doing that talks about a variety of things, but the big thing it's going to go over is the animal within.
Huh.
And the animal within is I've got a quiz on my website that they can take 2 questions. People like, oh, you can't possibly know with 2 questions. And it's like, yeah, actually, we can. 2 questions in under a minute, and we can narrow down your base personality type to one of four. And I use animals because they're obvious to me, but we're going to do the animal within will be a big part of that webinar. And you got to understand that different people think differently. And you can say
Yeah.
something to me and it's completely obvious to you and 2 other people, but I'm like oblivious to what it is you really meant. So you got to understand what the others are saying, and you got to understand how others hear. And that goes back to what Dr. Stephen Covey said: seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Right.
um, because it's my responsibility to speak in the way that you understand and to listen in the way you speak. But we're going to go over that in the webinar, so everybody come join the webinar next Tuesday. And Jace will put up a link for it in the description if it's not already on the show. And thank you, Jace, for doing that. But we're going to go over that. But along with that, you need to get the R factor, because you go over a lot of stuff in communications and all of those things as well in your book. So I
Absolutely.
say there's the plug for both of us, and that will help people, because everything in life comes down to
It
communications and
does.
relationships.
Yeah, I in the R factor, I started with do we have the right butt in the right seat?
Yep.
Then I moved to business development. Are your salespeople accounting for everything properly? Then we go into operations, and then we start talking about accountability and transparency, and then we
Yeah.
close with finance. And I did that purposely because I wanted to walk people through the relationships across the organization so we could get through the stovepipes that are there, but then also wanted to talk through it so people could relate to where they're at in their life or in their company or in their personal development, to make sure they understood if you're in the wrong seat, get out of it. Only you
A-
can make the change.
And
And
there's nothing wrong with getting out of that seat.
that's right. One of a good friend of mine years and years ago, he said, Brian, keep doing what you're doing as long as you like it. When you stop like it, go do something else.
Well, I've heard people say things like, I don't remove myself from the situation, be it a relationship, a job, whatever, because knowing what I know and knowing the bad is better than not knowing what might happen. Or I'll be a failure because I wasn't able to stick it out. Or, I mean, they
Mhm.
come up with all of these excuses, but the fact is, you're not a failure if you remove yourself from a situation. And that includes jobs, relationships, any other situation that you may be in. If you're not happy, chances are the people around you are not happy either, because they can sense you're unhappy.
And you might be holding the whole
And
team back.
yeah, and that's another thing I tell bosses is don't be afraid to fire people, because chances are good they want to be fired because now they're the victim and not the bad guy.
Right.
And nobody's happy when they're not doing as well as they would like to, or should be able to do.
I agree with
So,
that.
but yeah, no, butts in the seats, the right one in the right seat, and be in the right seat yourself. I like
That's
that.
right.
I like
So,
that. Well, tell me a little bit more about some of the things there in the R factor.
well, the key thing we talk about, it's was the first book like that I'd written where I actually wrote through the themes that I want to capture, and then I brought the story in to tie it together, which I thought was good. So you could have the analogies and the examples. And then as I go into, and I kind of hit up the accountability earlier, but when I went into your sales and your operations and your business development and all those pieces, one of the things too is owners have to understand how they're fishing. And so I use a 2x2 model for them to lay out where their opportunities are, with their highest probability of wins in quadrant one, second highest quadrant two, quadrant three, quadrant four. And what I find in quadrant four, if you're looking at the model, it's the lowest probability of win, but it's amazing how many companies have 80% of their work there because they didn't do the homework to move that work to another quadrant, or they just saw the big reward there and they spend so
Yeah,
much time on the big tomorrow they forget about the singles today, right?
yeah.
Singles and doubles will pay a lot of light bills and hire a lot of people because home runs don't come all that often.
Amen. Amen. And you get more home runs the more you try. I like your fail. First attempt in learning. Is that
That's right.
correct?
Yep.
First attempt. See, I had to write that down so I would remember it.
Well, people remember it that way too, and it lets you
Yeah.
set policy and talk to people, right? Because the worst thing you can do is somebody's afraid because they did something wrong and they're embarrassed. You got to give them an opportunity to grow,
Yeah.
right? And I hate to say it, but there's a lot of people these days. I'm not going to say X, Y, Z or whatever the generation is. What I've found is we've just gotten used to not wanting to have honest conversation, which is the absolute worst thing we have in business or life, right?
Right.
And we grew up where everybody gets a trophy and nobody wins. Well, life's not that way, right? And if you don't show up to play, the electric company don't care. They're going to turn your lights off.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so you have to be able to take those steps. What's the old joke about Edison, right? 99, he finally made the light bulb after 100 times. He found 99 ways he couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
I may be wrong on the number, but the gist of the
I know what you
quote.
mean. Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of people want a zero sum environment, and life's not that way. I mean, there's just, you got to stay on top of it, I guess I'd say. And so in the R Factor, we address those things, or how you can have transparency, how you can have leadership, communication, the networking, right? But again, the right butt, right seat, that starts with the K, knowledge. Do my employees have the knowledge they need to be successful?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then I've got the wrong person, or I need to know what education I need to help them get so that K and that knowledge box is checked.
Yeah. Um, I need you to give me the Kent quote again. Knowledge,
Knowledge, empowerment,
empowerment.
networking, and tenacity.
See, I remembered Kent and I remembered knowledge and tenacity, and then I forgot the other one. Knowledge, empowerment, networking,
Networking and tenacity.
tenacity. All right, if you guys are not writing notes, go back and listen to this again and write notes, because even though we say at the time, oh, that's great, I got to remember that, a lot of great things are going. And if you don't write it down, there's just something about tangibly writing it down makes you see it, makes you hear it, because you say it when you write it down in your mind and you're actively involved in writing it. So there, that's my 2 cents teaching moment. Now I've kented you.
That's right. You use three different centuries, right?
Yeah. Yep, the three sensories. So no, thank you. Knowledge, empowerment, networking, and tenacity. Yeah, I love your acronyms. I'm a big acronym lover. So
Well, if
I
you can
appreciate that.
pronounce them or say them, it's easier to remember too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
If you come up with an acronym that nobody can pronounce, well, then they'll forget it.
Well, the acronym being it's like, okay, that's not an acronym. That's 42 letters that mean 42 things that I can't connect in my mind. So,
Right, right. So, but that I mean that's really for the R factor. And then in my second book, Catalyze, it talks a little bit about the pain, right? About where you've made some bad decisions, but you can make the difference. From a bad decision, you can overcome it, but you got to believe in you.
yeah.
And and there's the relationships of the people that help you, and the relationships, and so it goes back into that whole part, right? And so that's kind of why I got it motivated to write the motivational quote book, right? Because
Yeah.
again, it's you, only you can make the difference in your life. Because somebody can be good to you or bad to you. If they're good to you, still though, if you don't take the action to move forward, it ain't going to happen.
I have a sister that says, your behavior does not impact my eternal salvation. Which to me, going along with what you said, is you can be good or bad to me, but it's how I react to it. It's what I do because of it that makes the difference.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's, and that's the way you have to look at it. And work and life and relationships, friendships, marriage, pick whatever relationship you're talking about. It's you have to be able to live with it, work with it, make changes with it, or whatever. So it's
yeah,
kind of like the old song says: the man start with the man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror.
yeah, yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. Well, I know you just had an article written about you that came out what, yesterday?
It came out yesterday. It's going to be in Sky Lounge, which is a UK publication. It's a great article. It was. We're going to talk about international business as part of that article, which was very good because I literally the article comes out this week. I head to the Maldives this weekend for some work. Then I'm back in Washington D.C. Then I'm going to go to Orlando where I'm going to be at the real estate and business conference. From there, I'll leave to go to Greece to speak. Then I'll come back and then I'll turn around and go back. The genesis for this article is because I'm going to do some international business in Morocco. There'll be about 6 or 7 countries. We'll be in Marrakesh. Looking really forward to it. We're going to go over there and talk about real estate and government business, geopolitical challenges, and ways to make money multiculturally.
Well, people don't think about the cultural differences there are. How do I say this diplomatically? I have lived around the world, and people in the United States who have not lived around the world forget that the world has different ways of viewing things. And just as simple as we lived in Malaysia, and I have a business card. I don't have one right in front of me, but we'll take a post it. You put both thumbs on the upside and you give them the card where they can read it when they first grab it.
When they're
And they
taking it
take
away.
it with both hands. And it's the same, you give money. You either give it with both hands with the thumb on top, or they put their hand on their wrist and give it to you with one thumb on top. But something as simple as that, you're like, oh, so what? Big deal. They know I'm from the US and we just toss it at you and hand it to you.
Yeah,
But
no, that's not.
they are completely offended, and it can impact a business relationship just as much as, well, saying a wrong thing. And we say wrong things because it means one thing in one region and another thing in another region.
So I spend time on that trying to learn kind of where I'm going. So like one of the things that I'm about to talk on, I was looking at doing a TEDx talk or something, and I was really drilling into leadership, and because there's two things today that leaders are really struggling with. And one of them is the cultural and global leadership, culture and global enterprise, right? Because now it's not just 12 people from the southeast or 12 people in the north. It
Nope.
is your team is a global team in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah, rarely are they not global in one form or another anymore.
And the second one is understanding how to use the differences in technology as part of your leadership.
Yeah.
We're doing a Zoom call type thing today. We've got, WebExes, we've got email, we've got text, we got TikTok, we got Facebook. I mean, there's so much coming at you as a leader today that you have to learn to manage all of the different medias and all the different outlets and all the communication methodologies because they all, 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, like LinkedIn was business and Facebook was social. Now Facebook is and Instagram are just as much into businesses as
Hmm.
LinkedIn is, right?
Yeah.
So you as a leader, you have to figure out how to adapt to that. Then you've got the cultural issues like here in the US, okay, we love TikTok, but we hate TikTok because we're selling our souls and our privacy away to, or if you go to Europe, the privacy laws are completely different than ours.
Oh, yeah,
So you,
absolutely.
so you have to not only understand the technology leadership part of that, but if you have a multicultural organization, they're digesting the information and the data you're sending them differently too, from a
Right.
cultural and a technological standpoint. So those are two things I've been doing a lot of homework on uh, for leadership and really talking about the relationships, the leaderships, the accountability, because even in other countries, they still want to have accountability. They still want to have, nice things. They still want to have new technology. They want to have a jingle in their pocket, as we say, right? So they're willing to learn and they'll work just like in the US we work. It just depends on where you're at, what type of work it is. So do you have the right leaders? And are the leaders paying attention? And
Right.
if they are, do their people feel like they're empowered to make a difference?
Yeah. Yeah. And huge difference. And you talked about the military telling you what to do, and now you have to tell yourself what to do and do it. But you've got to, and you went over it with the Kent. You've got to make sure they've got the knowledge. You've got to give them the empowerment to do it and help them find the networking opportunities, and then turn them loose and let their tenacity take over. But a lot of leaders are like, my way or the highway, and they're not even open to seeing that there might be another way to do it, and it might be a whole lot better because you're not the one doing it, so you don't know on the ground level what all the little intricacies are that's causing problems or that are creating successes.
Well,
And
and I think you got to make it to where when you have those WebEx or those meetings, though, that the people can tell you, boss, this we did what you said, but here's why it's working or why it's not.
yeah.
And if there's a why it's not, they need to have a solution on how to fix it because we can't keep going in the hole on projects, or pretty soon the
Right.
business isn't there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things that I do is I do OCM, organizational change management, for ERP systems, large scale computer systems going in. And I think I've had one project in 30 years actually go live on time,
Oh
because
wow!
people get, and they planned problems, because, with technology, there will be problems. Let's just face it. You know, you put together the configuration and it didn't work like you thought it would, so you got to reconfigure it. Well,
Right,
we're okay with those reconfigurations, but those reconfigurations happen with the people too.
right,
And those projects don't go live on time because people are, one, afraid to tell them this isn't working, or two, they're defending themselves. So they're just saying it doesn't work and they're not coming up with the solution.
right,
Or three, they're coming up with the solution and the powers that be say, no, do it my way anyway. And is, you got those things, and that takes them right away from your Kent. I mean,
right.
100% away from your Kent. And if they can't do that, people know how it needs to be done for the most part. You just got to give them the opportunity to do it and give them the encouragement and the motivation to do it.
Well, I think the key piece to that you're bringing up, sometimes you're still the boss, so the buck stops with you,
Yeah, yeah,
and there's leadership piece to it. But again, when you come down as a leader hard that says, I want it done this way, they have to believe that you've listened and you've made the best decision you can make with the information
Mhm.
you have, right? And that goes back to that relationship or that communication that we're just talking about, because people inherently want guidance. They want to understand where they fit. They want accountability. They want you to, hey, boss, let me go do, tell me what you want me to go do, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you lead like that, or at least in my opinion, some people have different leadership styles than me. I think the key thing is letting them bring their opinion, letting the people have the discussion, let the people understand what's going on. But in the end, boss, it's your call. And once you've made the call, they move out, take care of it.
Yeah.
And I don't say that as an authoritarian, but at some point we got to say we got to go.
Well, somebody
And
has to make the decision,
right,
but and I know that but's the wrong word. And I can make the final decision if I've allowed you to give me input so that I'm making an educated decision and not
right,
just a personality decision.
correct, right. Yeah. Well, you want them to be truthful and honest with you, so you can make the best decision for everybody.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I like that. And you teach them that in the R factor and in everything else. You are so good.
Well, I just like being part of the discussion so we can get to a solution and a decision.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. I I tell you what, I can think of a dozen leaders that need you, and will they actually realize and believe they need you? I don't know. No judgment on my part for that, but I know that there are people listening to this that are saying, "I need this man to come in and teach our company how to move forward." And I need that success, and I need the relationships, and I need that transparency. So for those people, how do they get in touch with you? Because it's important that they know that they can get in touch with you, and it's important to me that these people find you because you are valuable.
Well, when we have the website, www.brianlkent.com, I have my LinkedIn. On the website, there's a contact page that comes directly to me. So unfortunately,
Okay.
I get all the junk from that, but also get all the questions from that. In other words, if you get an answer back from that, it is from me.
Okay.
And then what we do normally is if there's an opportunity for me to work with your team or for me to do a WebEx with your team or something like that, we work multiple ways. I come on site for people or I do it virtually. And of course, as you just could tell by 5 minutes ago, I have no problem getting on a plane and go anywhere around the world. So,
Right.
so because we do look at problems that are problems you can't solve in your local state or county. I mean, we're looking at just different challenges in different countries and different regions of the world. So I don't want to say any job's too small or any job's too big, but I mean, we like to look at all of them.
Yeah.
Would love the opportunity. If you're one of your viewers would like to get in touch with us, I'm also on LinkedIn. And of course, I monitor that too. So, and
Yeah.
then of course on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, if you want to follow me, you'll see the nuggets of the day. We put out business quotes. We put out business strategies. We have a pretty active social media piece because one of the things we're trying to do is be part of the strategy and thought process.
Right.
So therefore, we have a lot of content that I write personally. I have a lady that helps me, but most of the writing I read it all and I approve it or I write it. Um, and we get those out just for thought leadership, just to show people that we're in the strategy game. Matter of fact, you were talking about Ken earlier. One of the books Ken and I are trying to release is Checkmate, and it's going to be 52 strategies, 51 other authors beside me doing a compilation book for strategy, and we're going to get it, and that way it'll be from all walks of life. There'll be salespeople, business people. I don't even know what all they'll be. We're going to pick 52 of what I'll say individuals that are in different business sectors. So if you get the book Checkmate, it'll be about 52 strategies, and you never know which one of those strategies might be the change in your business or in your world, because there'll be a strategy hack for business and a strategy hack for personal life that the person uses. And so therefore, you never know where you might find that nugget. That's why we decided to do it a little different. So anyway, that'll be Checkmate. Hopefully, be out by first of the year. 52 strategists, all writing just 1 or 2 pages about a business strategy and a personal strategy for getting ahead in life. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
looking
like
forward to
that.
that one too.
Yeah, no, I really like that. If you were to give, and you've given a lot of great advice today. So when I say this, understand, I know you've given a lot of great advice today, and I've written down a lot of notes. But if you were to say there was one golden nugget that fit the bulk of the people, because no one thing it fits all. But if you were to say there's one golden nugget you would like everybody to learn and to know and to incorporate in their life, what would that actual nugget be?
The most powerful thing that I talk to people about, or that was taught to me, is believe in yourself. Everybody doesn't need a college degree. Everybody doesn't need a technical degree. You need to figure out what you like doing with your life and become the best person at doing it you can possibly be, and believe in yourself. Don't work a job for 20 years you hate to end up being broke. Because if you do what you like, you won't be broke.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Um,
Bet
love
on yourself.
yourself. Yep. Be proud of yourself. Be thrilled with your day. Yeah, no, that all of that is fabulous. And I've had a person or two from time to time say, "Yeah, but you're lucky. Somebody introduced you to a bigwig or a power that be, so that's how you got to network with some of these people." And you know, I know my opinion on that. But if somebody were to give you that, how would you say is best for them to start out not knowing anybody that they think is all that powerful, to get networking with these hobnobbing, so to speak, with these people that make a difference? um and I'll share my 2 cents on that when you're done.
If you make $1,000 a month and you need financial advice, don't get it from a peer. Always seek advice from somebody that makes more than you, knows more than you, or that can advise more than you. Because what I've found is if you find it from a peer, if you make $10,000 a month and you're into this big financial problem, find somebody that has become successful in financial problems, right?
Right.
Because I've found if you get with people that are in your circumstance or that can relate, or not say relate to your circumstance, but just your peer, then all they're going to do is agree with you. They're not going to help you get the solutions or give you solutions to get out of it or recommendations, because people that have been through what you've been to can provide that information for you.
Yeah.
So I say if you need more money, find somebody that makes more than you and ask them how they got there. Right? If you need more education or more common sense, get with somebody that you just think's a lot smarter than you. Don't ever shortchange yourself. And what did some of the wisest leaders have said, that they always like to be the dumbest person in the room because when everybody around them smarter than them to bring them up.
Right.
Life is the same way. I constantly pursue people with more foreign business experience, more money, more education. I got a PhD. There's that just means I'm a specialist in a couple of areas. There's a whole lot of PhDs
Mm-hmm.
out there
Yep.
that they know something I don't know. And if you take every day as an opportunity to learn one thing, you'll get there.
Oh, I love that. I love that you said that, because it's like, yeah, I've got a degree in a area, which means I'm really good in that area, but there's a whole world of stuff out there. So I love that you said that.
I some of my academic friends don't like it when I make fun of PhDs, but I do because I
I do
is
too.
one, right? So because I tell them it's not a word, it's an acronym. It stands
Yep.
for piled high and deep.
Yep.
Okay. I have a lot of information piled real high and deep. That doesn't mean I can cover a lot of bases,
That's correct.
right?
That is
So,
correct.
so you got to get with those people that have that piled high and deep in another area to help you grow and get smarter and find areas that you're weaker in. Find somebody to be a mentor or a coach.
I really like that. And I was going to add my 2 cents, but it really goes along with what you said. um, is you find people who know things that you don't know or have done things that you need to do or want to do or you don't know what you need to do, uh, and ask them, because rarely, in fact, I don't think I've ever met anyone that was worth their salt not say, absolutely, I would love to take 10 minutes, an hour, a week, a month, a year, and help you get this in this area. And people people want to help you. And if they've succeeded, they definitely want to help you. And there's a difference between asking somebody that you respect and admire to teach you than it is to be a stalker. A stalker just follows them everywhere they go and is saying, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. That's a stalker. But somebody
Yep.
that says, hey, Brian, you are so good at this, and I would love your input on how I can do this better, or I have no idea how to get there. How do I get there from here?
So I tell you, if I get that question, and some people don't like my answer, I listen to the first minute or two, and then I've got about one of three books. One of them is the R Factor, but I have two other books that I didn't write. And before I'll have that meeting with them, I say, you read that book and we'll have a conversation. Because what I'm trying to do is, one, listen to where I think their problem might be coming from,
Yeah,
but I want them to, we can't have a conversation if we're not using the same glossary.
correct.
A lot of folks don't call back for the second phone call or don't re-engage because they're too lazy. Because I don't give them a Harry Potter 900-page novel. It'll be a small. The big thing
Yeah,
is what I'm doing is understand some basic concepts about the problem they're describing, so that we can have a discussion to see if that's really the problem or not.
yeah,
Um, and doing that weeds out a lot of people. But what it does for me and for the people that do it, it makes a much richer first conversation. Because now I can go back, because I've read these books, because I'm recommending them. I can say, remember when they said this? Remember when in the book it said that? Is that, can we tie your situation to that, or do we need it? And I can guide them through an analogy to put themselves first person into the problem.
and they've shown that they're not just looking for a hand out, they're looking for a hand up. They're looking
Absolutely,
for a guidance, not just give me, give me, give me.
that's right.
So that's perfect. Well, we're at the top of the hour, actually a little past it. I won't tell if you don't. uh,
Well, this
I
was good,
really
regardless.
I really appreciate what you've shared with us today, and I'm going to follow you on LinkedIn and all the other things. So I'm not stalking you, but I'm definitely going to pick your brain from time to time, because you are amazing, young man, and I appreciate that.
Well,
And
thank you
I'm
very
going to
much,
have
Karen.
Jace put across again how to get in touch with you. I know it's BrianLKent.com and Brian L. Kent with the Instagram, LinkedIn, X, all those other
Right.
things. So Brian L. Kent, PhD, also known as BK, because that stands for the Big King. I don't know what besides Brian Kent.
Just my
Uh,
initials, because we're going to use Kent, right? Knowledge,
yeah,
empowerment, networking, and tenacity.
yes, and I'm gonna
But,
put him on nice paper and hang it on my wall. I
but
acronyms like that I love. I put on nice paper and hang them where I can see them all the time.
because with Kent, there's nothing you can't do.
There's nothing you can't do. I like that. Oh, well, you everybody go check out his books and things, and it's been wonderful. And to remind you all, we have Power Surge every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And don't forget Karenisms on Monday, same times, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And be sure and follow up and check out Brian's information, Brian L. Kent .com, or at Brian L. Kent for most of the social media things. And I'm just, again, grateful, and I appreciate you being here today.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. Ciao, everyone, for now. Mwah. Thank you for joining me for yet another fabulous Power Surge Empowering Journeys with Dr. Karen Perkins, where we tell you stories of transformation and wonderful experiences that will help motivate you and empower you to see better things in your own life. And each week, I'm so grateful for the guests that we have on, and I'm sure that you love them as well. And now, if you want to know more about me or about any of my resources, please be sure and check out my website at drkarenperkins.com. Again, that's Dr. Karen, Karen, Perkins, Perkins.com. And if you want to have a free consultation, go ahead and schedule that. And we will talk to you soon. I hope to see you in a coaching program or get one of the resources or even a consultation. Ciao for now.